I'm shocked too. Maybe
I mean, I didn't mind us.
Sounds like a misunderstanding.
Yeah. That's what maybe they misunderstood it, but I felt bad they had taken a cab, so they couldn't leave. I mean, they could walk, but they couldn't walk too much.
Sometime I let him in if they're early.
I know. That's why I was looking for you. You weren't. I didn't see you there. I saw you. Good afternoon, and welcome to Rtist Revue. I'm your host, Bob Bockelman. There we are. I was wondering what we had there. It's the end of the month, and so as of this year, we feature our artists. And I kind of did a double take, just like our opening with the restaurant, because when I came in here, I recognized an old friend and a chef, and all of a sudden I did a double thought. Well, did I get the wrong day scheduled? But then all of a sudden I remember this gentleman is multi-talented, and he's been a delight in our city. He's the co-owner and owner and executive chef of one of the most famous restaurants in our city, 23-year-old Cafe des Gars on Esplanade. It's the treehouse that's on ground level. That's how I like to refer to it. But what I didn't know, even though I would always notice a lot of the artwork in the thing, really never took the time to go and research who the artist. Well, lo and behold, Jacque has another passion, and that is art. And we're pleased to bring you today. So we want to welcome to the show chef and artist Jacque Soulas. Welcome, Jacque.
Well, thank you, Bob. Thank you.
We really appreciate it. I'm so glad. Unfortunately, our rules for the restaurant, doesn't allow you normally to come on since we're featuring new restaurants, except for very special occasions. But we're happy to have you in here and be able to show the folks how talented you are. Let's talk a little bit about yourself for those who really don't know you either way. How long have you been in our city now, besides the 23 years of the restaurant?
Well, Bob, I came to New Orleans in 1980.
Okay.
And my first passion was actually the art. And I wanted to really fulfill this, and I went to art school here. And I came here in 1980, and it's just by chance, really, because of the nature of New Orleans, and because there's so many tourists here, that I just picked up the career in tourism and the restaurant tour.
I really would have thought it was the other way around, but not that there's any notice in the experience, but it's just I thought you were a restaurateur first and an artist second. But we're glad to hear it because, like I say, you are definitely excelling in both. Now, tell us a little bit about what gives you inspiration here, because it looks like a lot of our stuff is related to the city. Is that not right?
It does. This is one of I love this town. I think it's beautiful. It's very inspiring. In fact, most of the time I don't have to step very far. I just right outside my doorway there is Bayou Saint John, and that's my inspiration. It's pretty much all over me, all over my neighborhood. So I'm very much inspired by everything that's near where I live. And of course I love the downtown New Orleans. I love the historical aspect of it, but also the bustling aspect of the city. So there's always plenty of things to be inspired from.
Right, and it's so great now because we're all so much more attentive to our city post-Katrina. So to have a piece of work that reflects some of it is definitely, I think, meaningful to everyone today. So that's what's great. Now, Jacque has a fabulous website on this, folks. In fact, he has a lot of pieces in there. We're giving you a lot of details. You can blow up the images. It gives you all kind of merchandising information. And he's got them organized by category. Jacque, why don't you tell us the website name? And in fact, we're going to spell it for him to make sure everyone spells your name correctly.
So it's www.jacquesoulas.com.
All right. Now let's go ahead and spell that out for him.
It's JACQUESSOULAS.
Okay, and that's the tricky part, folks. It's a double S because it's the Jacque or Jacques. French spelling is JACQUES. and the Soulas is Soulas. So there's a double S. And a couple of times I couldn't read it because I dropped that double S. So, and it is .com. Is that right?
.com, yes.
Great. Well, anytime after the show, if someone wants to see some of the pieces we don't have, or maybe repeat pieces, go there, and you can get any other information about Jacque's art that can answer any of your questions. But let's go ahead, and unless you want to say anything else about it, let's go ahead and start your work.
Well, I was going to say that when I first came to New Orleans, one of my first priorities was to go to art school, and I went to one of the best, most hallowed art school they were here in New Orleans, called the John McCready's Art School.
Oh, yes. Oh, very
and
nice.
many very fabulous artists have gone to that school and spent years, Flatman and Caselli, and many others. And later on, I followed suit, and I went to the New Orleans Academy of Fine Arts, where I studied with Arce Soulas, who is still the director of the school today. So really some great school in the city.
Well, that's wonderful. It's great to hear that you've used our institutions instead of going elsewhere to get your training or additional training and bringing here. Folks, also, as you know, who are followers of the show, we do keep our phone lines open all during the show. So you do not hesitate to call and ask Jacque or I about any individual piece that we might be featuring or that we showed, or any other question about the website. We would be glad to give you as much information so you can truly appreciate the work. Now, why don't we take a look at the lovely piece, large piece behind us that's on the easel there. And Jacque, why don't you start telling us a little bit about that?
Well, this is a recent painting. This painting was painted back in December, and this is my little take on evacuation. It's being on the roadway. It's basically an interstate, looking at the interstate. It's a fairly long painting. It's 48 inches, so it's 4 feet long by 20 inches high. It's an oil.
It's an oil on canvas. Right? Beautiful.
And I've always wanted to do this painting of an interstate. I don't know why. I just like the sky. I like the birds. I gave them some activity, a little bit of life. And I wanted to have some fun doing this now. Basically, it's all from imagination. I just came up with the idea of it, and of course I did some sketches and painted it. And it's just a little bit of ideas from left and right, and I put this painting together. And it's actually one of my most recent landscape.
I think it's beautiful. It's environment. Most people wouldn't think of interstate highway as, and I'm glad you decided to do it now instead of doing the Katrina rush, because then I don't think it had been as aesthetic.
It wouldn't be the same.
Yes, exactly. Because the lush and verdant greens, along with the magnificent sky and the architectural detail of the overpass, it just really enhanced. If it would just strictly be the lanes, I don't think it would be nearly as effective. But that architectural framing of both of the sides of the interstate is just remarkable.
And there's always a child in us, and there's definitely one in mine. I love to paint trucks, and I love to paint cars, and I love to draw them. So when you're a teenager, you like to do this stuff. Well, I thought I would do it again, even though I'm not a teenager anymore.
Well,
and then additionally, just in case, a little anecdote. When you see the green bridges like this, you're in Alabama. They're all green like that.
There you go. There you go. And beautifully framed. Now let's take a look. I'm holding up another large piece. We wanted to get these big pieces out of the way for you. But this one is really one of my favorites. It's another magnificent landscape, magnificently framed. Let's start from the beginning, because I know this one has some important notes. This, again, is it oil on canvas?
Yeah. The title of this painting is On Dumaine Bridge. And it's basically around the corner from where I live. I live on Bayou Saint John. And this is just a couple of buildings across from the bridge that crosses Bayou Saint John. And then this painting has something quite a bit to me. First of all, I put my boys in it. I have 2 kids, and one of which I cloned. I put him twice in there, my youngest one. And then this painting actually suffered quite a bit during Katrina and was virtually destroyed. But I had such an affinity for it that I decided to redo it, to restore it. So this is actually a fully restored painting. And it just so a couple of boys goofing off, playing around. I think they're throwing stones or something in the water. And it's just the full sceneries of these lush greens that we are so fond here around Mid-City.
Right. So typical, of young boys. And what was the size of this about, Jacque?
This painting is 42 inches by 28.
Beautifully done. Beautifully done.
It's an odd size. Another thing is I actually painted the painting to fit the frame. This is from an old frame from
right. Well, I was going to say, I don't think this was just Katrina weathering. I thought this is definitely an antique frame.
It's an antique frame.
Really does a beautiful job with it. Okay, well, you're going to bring up number 3 for the folks.
All right. This painting, let's see, how do you do this?
That's right.
Okay,
you can lift it up either way.
This painting is a scene of Magazine Street at Jefferson.
Oh, great. The coffee house.
It's the old coffee house, except in this case I didn't put the logo on it.
No, well, we're glad you didn't. We don't want to merchandise for them, but beautiful. That magnificent towered structure is just really beautifully done.
So this is not an oil. This is almost a square. It's 18 inch by 18 inch, and this is a gouache. It's a gouache on paper.
Let's explain that because not everyone. First of all, even the spelling of it. And someone asked me, how do you spell that? A-W-A-S-H.
So gouache is G-O-U-A-C-H-E, and basically it's a water media, same as watercolor, but it's infused. The media is infused with chalk, and it gives us a certain opacity, a little bit of opacity. It's kind of a opaque media, but it has brilliant colors because of the chalk, and that's one of the reasons I love to work with this media. So the scene is simply Magazine Street, bustling day, people walking around, cars, the shops, and of course one of my favorite things to do is those big New Orleans skies.
Yes.
So that's what I had fun
and with the turret. I mean, it just really starts off almost as we pan down from the beginning, almost like a church.
It is, and it's the gorgeous Victorian building.
Yes, exactly.
Gorgeous Victorian building. And, again, in this case, I'm just playing around with colors. I'm just having fun with the mauves and the violets and all the blues of the backgrounds.
And the size about what on that one?
This one is 18 by 18.
18 by 18. And beautifully framed again with kind of a rosewood frame. Is that what you said?
Yes, that's what it is. It's rosewood.
Excellent. Okay, I've got one up here, folks. What are we saying about this one, Jacque?
So this is the painting is called Rush Hour.
I think everybody knows what this one's about, huh?
Yeah, that's Canal Street. That's the tourists. Everybody's on Canal Street, just having a stroll around, maybe a drink. Maybe they're coming from Bourbon Street, and then you can see the red streetcar in the background. And again, it's the Rush Hour.
Pre or post Katrina?
This was a pre-Katrina. And there will be several more paintings like this one where it's all about Canal Street. It's all about downtown New Orleans. It's different visions of Canal Street. And in this case, you could see again the bustle of the city and the bustle of our biggest boulevards.
And this is another gouache?
This is also gouache, same thing, infused with chalk. And again, I'm playing with those violets and the deep reds, and of course, all of this playing into play with the streetcar in the background.
With the streetcar itself trolling down. Again, the size on this one approximately?
This one is 24. It's about 2 feet by 15 inches.
Ah, okay. And again, with another rosewood tone, I think.
Also, I do a lot of frame in red because they seem to complement my color schemes. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, is that the Fairmont Roosevelt?
That's exactly to your left. Yeah.
There you go, folks. That's even more important.
Well, this one right here is Maison Blanche. That's where you were looking at the Maison Blanche, and then on the other side is the Roosevelt.
Right. But what's so good about it, I'm saying, since that wonderful Queen Hotel is returning to us, hopefully in a month or so. So what a nice tribute to it.
Coming back, yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at another. And don't forget, folks, we're talking to chef and artist Jacque Soulas, and he's brought some of his paintings to us today. You can call us on the line shown on screen and ask Jacque or ourselves any question you might have about a painting. Let's take a look at what you have next.
This painting that I'm holding is called the Red Street Car, and it's another gouache. It's another gouache on board, and let's see, maybe if I do this.
That's fine. That's fine.
No, this is a little bit more. It's a giclée. The painting itself is a giclée.
This is even more.
Right.
So let's explain what a giclée is. G-I-C-L-E-E.
G-I-C
with an accent.
L-E-E, two E's, with an accent on the first E.
Let's tell folks what a giclée is.
Basically, it's a reproduction, and it's a French word for which the word itself means to spray, but it's the French word for an inkjet print.
Okay, inkjet print.
So,
but it really gives it.
You get brilliant colors, and these are those very lovely inks, beautiful inks, and so you get the beautiful colors. This is another scene of Canal Street.
Yeah, what's that called? Skyscraper down. That's the Lights. No, what's that? It's not the World Trade.
All the way down. Oh, I think it's the UNO. I think that building is a UNO building, isn't it?
Oh, really?
Or the Tidewater.
Oh, Tidewater.
I think it may be the Tidewater building.
Yeah, look how neat. Now again, this is pre-Katrina.
This is another pre-Katrina. This was part of a whole series of painting that I did at Canal Street. In this particular painting, though, recently the New Orleans Museum of Art featured artists that have shown and depicted New Orleans, artists that came from New Orleans, from Louisiana, from the nation, and outside of the country. And this piece was featured in that exhibition.
Very nice.
And this is the Red Street Car again. So you can tell this is actually before Katrina, because after Katrina we had a Green Street Car there.
Yes, in fact, it's going to lead up to the next one. But did we mention size on this one? Now I know we've been about
this is also
size.
It's 18 by 21 by 14.
Yeah,
so it's
very
14
close
high.
in size. All these, but again, the frame's a little bit more ornamental this time. A little bit more like some Florentine trim. Very, very nice. But because it's a little small and the framing and the matting really look nice with it. Okay, now I'm excited about this one because, as we said, we're returning. It's a vertical instead of horizontal, and we're returning to the true Perlman streetcar on Canal Street.
So this painting is called All Aboard. It's the original. This one is the original.
Great
it's
name.
in gouache, and it is actually the streetcar taking on passengers at the corner of Carondelet and Canal Street. So actually this is a view of Carondelet, and you could see there is a store in a girl called Hansel Pettiton. I think it used to be
yes, it was a
office supply.
Exactly, a huge building pre-Katrina.
Right.
So really, very well known in the CBD for office supplies.
The Fairmont in this case, let's see, the Fairmont would be, if it's a block away. So I think there's like the security center right beyond, on the right side, beyond the yellow building. So this is kind of a scene of what Carondelet would look like.
Exactly. And what's so neat about it being all the large buildings, instead of here you've kind of lost a little bit of the sky, but I really like it because it really brings out the streetcar more.
Right.
Whereas the other ones you're constantly bringing up to the look at the beautiful sky.
Right.
Here the main focus, and should be because of the size, is the car itself. So it really gives a dramatic background.
Yes, in this case I cropped the whole scenery much more so that you really can't see much of the sky. Just maybe a little square here or there.
Right.
And essentially you're just seeing the street scene.
Yes, but it's good because it kind of feels not claustrophobic, but it's all framing around the streetcar itself. Now, what media is this again?
This is another gouache. That's a gouache.
And again, the size on this is a little, like I said, more vertical.
It's a little bit bigger, and it's I think it's 16 inches wide by 23 inches tall. Okay. And then, of course, there's a mat board, so I add
it makes it much larger, right? But the viewing size. Excellent. Okay, again, folks, we're talking to artist Jacque Soulas of also Restaurant Cafe de Gare. He's brought some lovely paintings to us. As we mentioned, he does have a website, in case you want to check out some of these things in detail. Some of them you can actually, get very up close with zooming in, and so you can see much more details than maybe we're even showing here. And of course, some of them may not be on there, so that's why we want you to watch the show. But that's www.JacqueSoulas, JacqueSoulas.com. All right, Jacque, let's move on to this one. I've always liked black and white photography, and I just think that's so dramatic. And I think this here is just really a beautiful piece.
Well, this is a very recent piece. This is a pen and ink, and I just completed this, I think in December. So that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
And this is another view of Canal Street. Originally, this was meant as a sketch to do a mural for one of the buildings at UNO, but the project never went through. I still liked the project. I still like the idea of the pen and ink drawing, so I kept it going, and I worked some more on it. It shows I think it's not the Maison Blanche building. It's next door to it. Gauchos, and I think it's a hotel now.
Oh no, Ritz-Carlton. That's right.
The Ritz-Carlton. That's
the
it.
Ritz-Carlton Hotel.
Yes.
Exactly.
And it's just a couple of people strolling up front. You got, of course, again the streetcar, the stop, and then you could see they've got the palm trees. One of the reasons you can see it's recent is because it's the palm trees behind the streetcar. So that's a very recent painting.
Yes, there's a great way to date some of these photos is by looking at those nuances that you might normally not check, but certainly the change over the palm indicates the post-Katrina situation.
Right.
But like I say, what I really like about this one is its dramatic effect, and I'm not sure if it's coming off as strong on the TV, but it really almost looks like a black and white photograph from a distance. I mean, obviously up close you can tell it's a pen. So that's what's so neat, folks, is the amount of detail that Jacque has put into this shows that his real talent, because only a photograph could capture that much information, and I think she does really have done a beautiful job.
So this is basically from a sketch. It's many different, over a long period of time, just many different sketches, and then playing with the values, dark and light values of the...
And what was the title on that piece?
This is called, I don't think I even titled this painting.
How about a size? Another vertical one?
That's a vertical. It's 19, I think it's 20 inches or so tall by 15 inches wide.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look at it now. Now, this one is unframed, folks. This is actually on what I call foam board. I'm not sure if that's the proper...
It is. Foam core.
Foam core.
Foam core, yes.
Which is... to me, lends itself to a lot more contemporary look, like great for office or a contemporary home, as opposed to the traditional. Not that you couldn't put it in, but it's just to move forward away from looking strictly for a framed piece. So it's neat about it, and because of its size, can be used in so many different configurations. But once again, we're talking about Canal Street, is that right?
That's another Canal Street. Now, the particularity with this piece, a few years ago, this was before Katrina also, I acquired an old photograph of Canal Street from, I believe, the 1960s. And I really liked this photograph, and it fit with everything I had from that series of work. So I decided to do painting from the photo, and I added my own colors and stuff. And you can actually see it's 1960s. First of all, it's got the palm trees, and then it's got those red and green bushes up front, which I don't think you see anymore.
No,
and then, of course, the
away.
Cars look a little older.
Yeah.
They're not from our period anymore. Plus, I have a bunch of signs in there that we call us the 60s. There is one that says no vacancy.
Right.
There is a couple of signs.
The magnificent Monteleone Hotel.
Yeah, there is the Monteleone in this case. Yes.
Yes, exactly.
And you can see the furs. There's like Stevens furs.
Exactly. One of the ones no longer there. Furious, right?
Anymore, yes.
But I love the kind of bluish gray. So it's like shading, maybe afternoon. I'm not sure what period you did it.
Yeah, this is late afternoon.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's just a beautiful reflection as opposed to being some of the others which were the vibrant day.
Right.
This is kind of before the sun sets where the city starts to kind of wind down and get comfortable and really be an enjoyable piece.
So this is another giclée. So that's another printout giclée.
Good.
And the size is 10 inches tall by 22 inches long.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. Okay, you got another one then. This one I really love.
Here's a fun one. This is another giclée. I call this one At the Bus Stop. And this is folks, again, it's Canal Street, and it's folks that are waiting for the bus stop. And what I like about it is each one of them is its own world. There is 4 people in this piece, but all of them are in their own world without anything to do with the person next,
right,
except for the fact that they're there.
Right, exactly.
And
the cohesion is just the opportunity waiting for the necessity of the transit or the
bus, yes.
But right, that's what's so neat. They're so close together, but yet at the same time they're worlds apart.
Right, and it's the gesture, their demeanor, how they're standing. I really like this painting. And then of course there's this fellow on the right who is totally halfway cropped, and I just like the way he looks, man.
Well, I like it too. And again, I think a very contemporary. And folks, look at the detail. You really have to be an artist, a portrait artist, to be able to see the amount of detail that Jacque has brought out in the facial expressions of each of these individuals. So that's what's so neat about it, is that it's so realistic. It really almost looks like identical to a photograph.
The gouache gives you a lot of room, and gouache is not a painting that you can blend easily, so you layer it. So you layer one color over
on top of the other.
Over. Yes, exactly, and that's by layering that you achieve whatever blendness you want to achieve, the smoothness of the work.
Once again, the piece is on foam core,
this
foam
one is
board.
On foam core, yeah.
And what size? We're talking a little smaller than some of the others.
This is 18 by 15.
Yeah. But again, very, very nice. And I see this, again, appealing to a lot of the younger folk, more the contemporary individual. And although the subject matter could be for all times, because, again, most of the folk portrayed are not teeny boppers. They got some years of experience and wisdom on their face. But truly a lovely, lovely piece. Okay, let's take a look at what I've got. We're returning now, getting a little away from downtown, going back maybe to the, I don't know if this is Mid-City per se, but...
this is actually the fountain at
Audubon Park. Doesn't say this looks much more like Uptown for me.
Yes, it's the Uptown. It's the fountain when you first walk into Audubon Park, when you're crossing from Tulane University. That's the first thing
St. Charles, on the avenue, right, exactly.
This piece it's actually an oil. I think it's 16 by 20. It's an oil.
Yeah, it looks like a standard size, 16 by 20, right?
And I don't do so many of them anymore, but this is called a plein air painting, where the painting is begun and finished on site. So I bring in an easel and the colors and the painting, and
so
it's all done there.
Shopping now.
Exactly, it's all done there on site.
Yeah, I think that pretty much for most people is kind of a dead science. I hate to say it. In the old days, that was the only way to paint.
It's actually coming back. And I know a lot of people in town that are doing it.
Returning back.
Yeah, it's coming back. And what you basically get is a fresher approach, a very fresh approach. And then, you get it all, whether you make mistakes or not. You just get the good and the bad all at once. So that's the plein air painting. Of course, the Impressionist, the whole Impressionist movement, they were famous for doing this, for their approach to plein air painting. And so this is, a lot of people in New Orleans now are coming back to that.
I can understand why. And I think what's neat about it is, again, that one-stop process. It really much more reflects nature as opposed to coming back different times. You're going to have nuances of, not even maybe more than nuances of lighting, because you might be at a different time of the day or a different time of the season. Whereas here you're consistent, and it's like I say, almost during a snapshot. Done that one particular time. So
I'm glad you brought this back, Bob, because one of the things about plein air painting in New Orleans is that you tend to do it in the morning, because in the afternoon it's simply too hot.
Too damn hot.
So this is actually an early morning painting.
Okay.
And I would actually go to the site around 7 in the morning and paint until maybe 11 o'clock, and that would be it. This particular painting caught, maybe I went 3 or 4 times on 3 different occasions to do it.
Is that actually, when you said looking, is it really looking toward the park, or is it looking from the park?
I'm looking
toward
at the river.
Tulane?
I'm looking toward the river.
Toward the river, okay.
Yeah,
I thought I saw a
Tulane
building
University
behind the
is
trees.
on my back.
Is your back? Okay, yeah. Okay, excellent. Well, it's a magnificent welcome to the park, which we all know has a really beautiful entrance, and especially now during the holidays when it's all lit up. Now we're moving again to some large, and certainly what I love, a little, this almost relates to our restaurant show and Jacque's other passion, where we're starting to see tablescapes and just really in contemporary, beautiful, beautiful pieces. This is really one of my all-time favorites of his with regard to color and subject matter. I'm going to talk about that.
Well, recently, I've always been very attracted by still lifes, and this is one of the still lifes. And then I will do still lifes, and I'll go into different cycles, different themes, different ideas. And lately, I've been very intrigued by painting anything that has to do with confectionery, anything sweet, pastries, candies, things that are essentially man-made. And I've been exploring this little world of patterns, with repetition, and with a little bit of photorealism at the same time. So this is a painting that I just completed. This was finished in February.
Wow.
And again, I'm using the theme here is essentially the color red and pink. When I'm really putting it on thick.
Complementary colors, beautifully done. Now this is
colors.
an oil, right? On
this
canvas?
is an oil on canvas. It's 30
large
inches.
piece.
Yeah.
Large piece.
It's a 30 inches both sides, and I've got jelly beans in there. I've got some sweet tarts. I've got, of course, cupcakes, which I've been painting cupcakes lately.
Well,
and then what I liked about this is I put this on the tablecloth with all kinds of patterns and leaves and roses and again colors. So this is really a busy background. This is a busy little painting, but I enjoy just doing this kind of things. And I played with the color schemes, like those leaves. I've actually have an outline which is blue, and those two colors have a tendency to resonate together.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so that's the whole playing around with these ideas.
Well, what I like about it, again, is the tremendous interplay of dimension and shape. The swirls of the cream product, or the natural upward tendency of the strawberries, all the placement, as you say, on a busy and very true tablecloth, a back setting of a flowered tablecloth. So. Yeah. Even though all of it might say, well, where do you see that in nature like that? Just the opposite. You certainly see it a lot, certainly in someone's home or at a restaurant.
I mean, this does look like it could be, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
sure.
This doesn't look like it could be like a buffet setting,
exactly.
or
even
shop, or like
I have one similar to this. I had commissioned an artist to do in oil, and I like this one a little better. Certain things I wanted was, I like peonies, and some peonies, but with some tea. I had a lovely teapot cup, but with some pastries, and I just went berserk over it. I really love it, and I think that's why this one, reminds me so much of that one, even though they're totally different. Right. But really, and again, framed beautifully, a big change from the other frames. Not so much the color, but natural, just a flat thing, nothing to take away, just to give more dimension to the canvas as opposed to adding size to the canvas.
So the painting is total direct observation. It took me quite a while to do this. I went and bought the pastries at a local shop.
Okay.
Yeah, I got it. And then I brought it in, and then I immediately got started. And the first thing I had to do was paint those pastries right away. Don't waste any time, because they didn't give me much shelf life. And then I played around with all these little bit of highlights everywhere to give it that gelatin feel about. And then after that, everything came along. The cupcake itself, that lasted a little longer. And of course, the candy was just there for fun. I put the candy in the end just just to have fun. This is a bit of an indulgent painting.
Oh, but lovely, lovely, lovely. But I think it's surpassed, in my opinion, by this next one, because it's really taking it to another completely another level. Again, I noticed you said cupcakes, and that dessert theme was certainly something of your interest now, and very appropriately so. That might be your restaurant background, because that has been the tendency of desserts now. Cupcakes have really been
they've taken off.
The size. They really have shops. They have websites. Cupcakes are really today's dessert, if you want to call it. But here's one we're taking it to a more formal, almost Art Deco level, and just beautifully framed. This wallpaper is just so stunning in the background. Tell us about it, please.
Well, this is a new direction I've been taking in my work lately, where I've done these very elaborate, very busy, very ornate backgrounds, where I incorporate the background almost as much as the foreground. So you can tell there's almost no difference between one and the other, and it's the whole line. The whole deal is the fine line is keeping it interesting, yet it's very busy in the background. So the whole painting has this very ornate feeling about it. And then I bring in different contrast in colors, such as this very rich purple petit fours on the front, and of course the cupcake themselves. So the whole painting is a very busy but ornate painting of sweets. So it almost it's a mouthful to just look at in many ways. And these ornate decorations in the background, it's called paisleys, and I do a lot of painting with this. I really enjoy painting those, and they have almost a tactile effect. You could almost put your hands on them. So in many ways, it goes back to looking at magazines and commercial illustrations. It reminds you of that.
Yes, definitely. It definitely looks like a stage thing, but on a beautiful, not architecture, but maybe interior design magazine, featuring magnificent wallpaper and decorations, and accented with the beautiful, sweets.
This painting is 36 inches wide by 24 inches tall. So this is a fairly big painting.
Oh, lovely! And then also the high gloss of the frame. It's again a little different frame, very plain, not taking away something from the ornateness of the subject matter. But the high gloss that's on here really reflects that upscale mode that you're trying to bring into the whole thing.
Well, that's just it. The painting itself is so ornate. I don't need an ornate frame. It needs to be as plain as possible. So I like to do it wide to give a lot of heft to the painting in general, but I want the frame to be fairly simple.
Yeah. But still, the high gloss of it,
yes,
it does really adds to that level of luxury that you're trying to portray.
And again, you look at these petit fours and these cupcakes. I know I want to put my fingers in them. You want to put your finger and just kind of lick the icing.
No, they definitely are something you can certainly feel, and would love to have one to eat, as you see. So just a beautiful, beautiful piece.
And you know what? I was just going to mention one more thing. The one thing that it's there, but it's not as important, but it's very difficult to paint, is these folded papers, especially the second one, the blue one from the left. It's a metal folded paper, and these are really tricky to figure out. They're pretty fun to paint.
Almost origami.
Just like to mention it. They're really difficult to break apart so that each plane receives the light in a different way.
And again, I'm sure we mentioned, but I don't know if we did, oil and canvas, right?
This is an oil and canvas, which 90% of what I do is an oil and canvas.
Good. That's But I mean, you have showed us some things and taught us some things today about the giclées and the gouache. So that's good, because today people do kind of go all over the board. But in the old days, you painted in one media and that was it. And even though I prefer oil to most of them, at the same time, I think all of them really have their own place and add different dimensions to
Well,
the
Katrina kind of taught us one thing, though, is that you got to watch out for oils, because oils didn't do well with Katrina. That salt water really hurt it bad.
You're 100% correct there. That's so many people have had to try and get them restored, or have actually lost their works because oil just does not do as well with that nasty water of any type of storm, let alone Katrina. Folks, we're talking again to chef and artist Jacque Soulas of Cafe des Gars during the evening and the afternoons for your lovely food delights. But also able to see some of these magnificent pieces in his restaurant or on his website. We're going to repeat that again because it's a little bit of a mouthful. The WW3, of course, Jacque Soulas, Jacqueus, and then another S, Oulas. So it's S.com, where you can see a lot of these pieces, some of them even more up close than we're showing you. Get a lot more information on Jacque's background as well as any information you might want to have done. Jacque, can you tell us, other than, of course, your fabulous use of your restaurant as a gallery, is any other place other than the website that you might have some pieces that people could see?
I show in a gallery in Jackson, Mississippi, which is not around the corner.
A little bit of drive, but
in New Orleans, I used to show on Julia Street at Sylvia Schmidt, but Sylvia didn't want to reopen after Katrina.
Yeah,
so
post Katrina, right?
I've been actively looking for a new gallery, and I actually just made contact with the gallery called Taylor Bercier.
Yes,
it's on Charter Street. Vicky Bassetti. And in fact, next couple of weeks, I'm going to be bringing some work there. So I'm looking very interested.
Very good. Well, let us know when that is, and we certainly will publish, especially with our wonderful first Saturdays of art gallery openings, and we'll get a chance to see it. Well, that's good to hear. Now, in Jackson, what's the name? And like I say, nobody's going to run necessarily to Jackson.
In Jackson, it's called Gallery 119, which is 119 President Street.
Address of the street. Because I know we go, whenever there's a great new exhibit that they would have from out of town or out of country, we always train up to Jackson, so that would be a great thing if you're up there for any other reason.
We have a great little art scene there, and there are people that are very interested in artwork. So.
Okay, so you won't get too tired holding that next one, because again, it's another large piece, but certainly very contemporary, I believe. But it's very, very stylized, like the last one we just. Let's take a look and tell us about that.
Oh, this is a painting that it's another still life. Now I've been doing this really odd-looking still life where I bring in all sorts of new elements. And in this case, I have bamboo, I have bowls, I have crystal bowls, I have ornamentations, I have bubbles. I mean, you name it, I've got it. And I bring in all kinds of new element into it. If you look at the bubbles, they really have no business being there, but I just thought, why not? They're fun to be.
Is that a sphere or a mirror? It's the white and blue thing. I can't.
It's a sphere. It's a round ball.
Beautiful.
That has ornamentation on it, and then
it's so dramatic. Again, folks, we're talking about a black background, magnificent. Again, black, large, wide, black framing. So that really plays a great dimension for him. So the colors, even the color white, just is so vibrant, stands out so nicely. And then the beautiful, is that a banana leaf? Or
that's a bamboo leaf.
Bamboo leaf, okay.
And I taped it against the tablecloth, and then I put these crystal bowls, so they have high value reflections, and they're reflecting the tablecloth underneath it. And then I have stenciled in on the right side these 5 little ornaments. They're like on top of the one of the other, the green on the right side. You start seeing them. Well, these are stenciled in. If you look on the upper right, that's it. All these, and they are just...
And stencil, you actually mean cutting out a stencil?
No, I painted it. I just kind of I pasted the same element over and over and painted it in the same size. But I call it stencil because it's just this similar ornamentation. And... they have nothing to do with the painting itself. It's just that I thought they would be fun. They would be great just to put up there. And so this is a painting that I had fun with. I played around. I put the tablecloth in there, which is simple blue with the flowers, and of course the whole painting is surrounded with greens, black and blue, so it's a rich color combination.
There's a striking picture, and I think, like I say, especially for like a formal area of a contemporary home, would just be magnificent, whether it be the living, the dining room, just really a dramatic piece. Can be used anywhere, but I'm just saying the the piece is so dramatic. It's definitely going to be an eye stopper, and I wouldn't put anything else on any of the other walls because I think it's going to command a central attention.
I don't know if you could see them, but like right on top of the tablecloth to the left, there is like a glass chip. So I don't know if it's really noticeable, but just a little. It's a small piece. Couple of glass chips right there. They're almost in front of you right now.
I think we see them, yes. Wow.
Yeah, you could see a little bit of reflection in it, and these are the still lifes that I like to paint. So to take you over from the jars and the apples and the bottle of wine, I wanted to do a little something different, and I've been doing these kind of still lifes. They were really contemporary, different, and they still follow the same rule. They're sitting on the table,
right.
But I'm breaking as many rules as I'm following, so that's the whole idea.
Keeping them balanced while being unbalanced. Mm-hmm. Excellent. Now, folks, we're going to the other extreme. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know whether I need to hold it up. We've seen some mighty large pieces, but now we're following up in the series of tablescapes and fruit and the cupcakes. And I have one on my hand. I don't know whether we're going to bring this up or what. This is called plums. You want to carry it up? Again, a very small, but this is really neat because it can be used any place. Again, with the beautiful rosewood tone frame. And like I say, it is called plums, and you'll see like 3 plums, I guess, in a glass or a vase, and another one that's found its way free to the table. And very balanced with the magnificent wallpaper on the background. Again, almost like the one we saw with the cupcake, where you got these vibrant colors and activities of other flowering plants that just complement, almost looks like pomegranate plants. So really done well. But the plums themselves in the container can actually be glass balls, so they really are multidimensional in their use. Tell us a little bit in your own words, Jacque, about it, so I won't be the only one describing.
Okay. Well, the background in this case is actually the same cloth that we saw in the larger painting earlier, the cupcakes. Only in the cupcakes, it's mostly in a green color scheme,
shading, right.
While here I turn it into the yellow and orange color scheme. But it's actually the same thing. I just played with the different colors. These miniatures, I call them miniatures. They're 4 inches by 5 inches. So it's
cool.
Fairly small. That's an oil. That's an oil on canvas.
Wow.
And every year, the New Orleans Academy, the Academy Gallery downstairs, has an invitational show where they invite about 50 or 60 artists to bring in 4 pieces each. And right before Christmas, they do the miniature show. And this is from that miniature show. And so we're limited to 4 pieces each. So this is one of 4. I don't believe I have. That year, I had 4, but this is the only one left. And that year I did a series of work called all on plums, and all following different backgrounds. So I had a lot of fun, and I've been doing that with lens still lifes, where I put things inside of glassware just for fun and see what happened, and then just paint them. So this was a fun.
Well, I have to ask this, and this will show my naivete. Is it more, I would think, but probably wrong, that it's a lot more challenging to do a miniature piece compared to one of these extravagant ones you've done on the larger side? Now, I might be totally wrong, but that's what I would think. The intricacy of the size, the spatial element would be so important.
Well, what's more difficult is that it's so small that you have to be you have to be more precise. So like everybody my age, I'm starting to lose my eyesight, so I have to work with loop or some sort of implement to magnifying glasses so I can see better, because otherwise it doesn't read. But once you get a hang of it, though, they're really fun to do, and they're a little quicker. I actually paint them a little faster.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Again, I'm mystified because I would think just the opposite. The amount of detail that's required and doing in such a confined space would even take longer. But I can see where now. Yeah. But just a great idea. And you've got a couple more for the. Again, folks, if you'd like to call in and speak to Jacque or myself about Jacque Soulas' art or anything about Artist Revue, please do so. Our numbers are up on and we'll be glad to put you through. If you don't want to speak on the air, then just tell the director and Jacque or I will speak to you after the show's over. But certainly we'd love you to come on air and tell us, ask us anything about his art. Okay, what next one? You got another minute to it.
Well, this is another miniature. This is part of that whole series of candies and sweets and confections. So this is candy, and in this case, I'm exploring.
Patty.
The little mints, yeah. And in this case, I'm exploring not so much the candy, but the wrapper.
Right.
That is the trick.
The dimension of it makes them almost look like winged insects. I mean, not insect, but it really looks like a winged creature or something. Totally pulling it away from the candy concept. So that was a great idea.
So it's 2 single pieces of candy, and of course they have to read fairly well in the volume, in space. And the difficulty here was to do these wrappers, and
like I said, they're just really so unique. Because we when we're unwrapping it, we don't even pay attention to that. We just twist it off. But the way you've got that detail, the creases and all in the plastic or the plastic paper, whatever it's called, just phenomenal. It just, like I say, adds a dimension and gives it a vitality as opposed to being an innate piece of paper.
So this is another piece. That's an oil and canvas, and it's 4" by 5".
4 by 5, and it's oil again.
It's an oil
and canvas.
Yeah, and it's that's the thing about the oil. You really can get so detailed, so intricate. You can really play well with that medium. It's a wonderful medium to work with.
Now I said oil and canvas. I don't believe that though. I tapped this one on the back. Is this more like oil on board?
Because the canvas.
Okay. Tell us about that.
The canvas it's real canvas, and then what I did is I glued it on foam core, and then I attached the foam core to the frame. That's to give the piece some rigidity. Otherwise, I would have had to build a frame, and it's so small that I would have a hard time to build it. Right. So I glued the canvas to foam core to give me rigidity, and then I built that against the frame, so that the canvas could hold on to something.
Of course. But as I said, but usually the canvas has such pliability. That's why I said I just mentioned yours was oil on canvas, but I was tapping the next one we're about ready to show, and it's the same. And I said I was wrong there. It couldn't be canvas because it's.
And the reason for this is besides the gallery, they ask us to not exceed 20 square inch. So all I have to work with is 4" by 5".
So these are dictates by the
pretty much. And I think it's because 50 artists,
right?
You only have so much walls.
So much walls, right? Very good, very good, excellent. Okay, well, let's take a look at another. We got a couple more before we finish, folks. We're getting near the end of the show, so we still would love to hear from you. Don't hesitate. Give us a call on one of the numbers and speak to Jacque or ourselves about his work. We usually get callers on this show more than anything else we do. Everyone is so fascinated with the talent that we have locally, and especially the experienced talent that Jacque brings not only to his art but also to his food for the city. But let's take another look at the miniatures. Again, kind of the candy, but this one is so neat because even though I guess it is either cookies but all crafted in the shape of a heart, and then nice enough to actually design them or align them into a circle to give it just a tremendous dimension. So it really adds like 2 different levels to this particular piece. Tell us some more about it, Jacque, please.
Well, this piece came to me during Valentine's Day. My wife got me a little present for Valentine, and this was the chocolate hearts here. And when I first looked at them, I was taken by the shapes of these hearts. I said, wait a minute, I got to do a painting with these. So I organized them immediately into a little shape, into this little circle, and started to paint them. So there are different different flavors of art.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we go over the, because the bottom looked like maybe
vanilla,
white cookies or
white
something.
chocolate. They're all chocolate.
Oh, they're all chocolate.
Yeah, they're all chocolate. The bottom ones have white chocolate, maybe with maybe a strawberry icing. And
are they flat, or are they actually really curved and puffed like you presented?
They are curved and puffed like they're
so maybe there's something in there's like a filling, maybe?
Yeah, it's like a fudge, like a hot chocolate, like a chocolate fudge-like, dense filling. Yes.
Like a
and then, like the one that's all the way at the upper left, that's dark chocolate. And then
right. You
clockwise,
can see right.
It's like milk chocolate's a little lighter, and then maybe some
we
nuts
go around
in
the
it.
clock. Yes, exactly. But really well done. And you just spotted these and decided to...
Immediately, when my wife Angel brought me the box, I'm looking at this, I'm like, God, I have to do a painting with the chocolate. They look so good.
Sometimes you might get a little frustrated when she's trying to save these to the family or friends, and you've got to wait for you to finish your concoction yourself.
Yes.
But again, another small piece done on, again, as we mentioned, canvas, but applied to foam core because it gives that same feeling. Is that right?
Yes, foam core.
Okay. Well, we've got one more minute here for Jacque to show us today, and then we'll finish off for the artist review. Tell us about the last one you got there.
So this last painting is another series of candy, and in this case we've got the mint again, and then
kind
we
of a
have
variety
another,
of stuff on this one, huh?
candy, jelly candy, and then we've got the jelly beans, and again we can see the wrappers. This painting is follows this wonderful American artist from the West Coast called Wayne Thiebaud.
Okay.
And I've always, I love his work. I've always been very inspired by his work. And I was definitely following a little bit of his ways. And I put this candy in a perspective like where they're bigger up front and smaller behind you, and they're going into the distance. So I thought I would come and play like this.
Yeah, it has even the colors are not reminiscent. It has a southwestern kind of feel,
right?
Like you'd see instead of natural
yellow
landscape, the horizon with these colors. Other than, of course, the vibrant colors of the candy, which you wouldn't see. So it is a very, very interesting. I was wondering. I didn't know you had that influence, but
I am very much. I've always loved Wayne Thiebaud. I like his very contemporary feeling. He's also he's well known for his pies and cakes and display and gumballs, and he's like a very pop artist of the 60s, but very realistic, it's just, and the colors are brilliant and vibrant, so that's one thing I like about him. So,
well, I'll tell you one thing I would like is hopefully you in the future, if you ever get the feeling or the itch to do a series on flowers, because that's specific, like mums, peonies, some of those. Yes. I'm always amazed at the Odyssey, not the Odyssey Ball, but the New Orleans Museum that does that floral. They do flesh floral arrangement contests every year.
Arts in Bloom.
I couldn't remember.
Bloom.
Thank you, Art in Bloom.
Yes.
And I just take away those images and say, if only they could be permanent. Take this magnificent creature of nature, but preserve it forever. I would love to see you do that, because I would be not that I'm not a fan already, but I think it would certainly clinch the situation. Well, folks, we're so pleased to have Jacque Soulas in the studio today. As we mentioned. You could kill two birds with one stone by going down to his lovely restaurant, Cafe de Gare on Esplanade, especially with our weather before it gets too hot. As for those who don't know, it predominantly is a tree house on ground level. There's a tree growing out the center, and it's so well done because you can have open air, al dente dining, or when it's cooled down or rain, they can drop some plastic shades. But as you tour that, you'll see some of these pieces, or go to his website, and that's Jacque Soulas, JacqueSoulas.com. You can get a lot more information. Once again, thank you, Jacque, for coming in. We would love to see you all again. Remember, Artist Revue comes on once a month in place of Restaurant Review on the last Wednesday of the month. We've already got the whole year calendar filled up, so we'll be able to bring you a lot of our local talent, and it seems to be doing well. If you have any questions, go to his website or give us a call, and if not, we look for you in the galleries or in the restaurants. But most importantly, we'd like you to check out Jacque Soulas's work, either at his restaurant or in his website. Do you have any, you mentioned real quickly before we go, the presentation in that art gallery, new gallery. Any idea when that might be available for people to see again?
I'm hoping that, let's see, we're in April, probably by June. I think it's going to take maybe the whole month of May. I've got to prepare more paintings.
Of course.
So I think by June I'll have some paintings.
And once again, let's go over the name so people can look forward. Name of the gallery and the location?
It's Taylor Bercier, and it's, I believe it's in 200 blocks of Charter Street. Yeah.
So look for him in June, and again, probably like most of the galleries that we have from May through, or September through May, the first Saturday of the month, they're open late, served you maybe some libations or lovely music, and you get to see some of the work. So if you don't, you want to see some of his work in the flesh, and you don't go to the restaurant and not satisfied, see some of his newer stuff at that gallery. Be on the lookout for it. And I'm sure you'll have information in the website once you get the precise dates of that showing.
Yes, I will. Until then, all of this work, most of the newer work anyway, is on show. It's showing at Café des Gars at the present time. And that's going to be through the end of the month.
Okay.
Through the end of May, actually.
Thanks again, and take care.